We've actually got some major electrical issues here. All right, here we are in week 3. This is Brian Crawford with Revitalize, New Mexico, and we're at our flip house project. And week 3 is always the most boring week because the first week you got all the trash and you start hauling it off, and a lot of progress happens in a very short amount of time. So this week's going to be a little bit less exciting. And I can tell you, week 3 is usually the week that you really start getting into the things that you didn't know you were going to run into when you first bought the house. And I think week 1 we covered the fact that we weren't going to have to upgrade the electrical because they had upgraded the panel. Unfortunately, that's not the case. We've actually got some major electrical issues here. And actually, the electrician just drove off, like right as you guys pulled in. But as you can see, these walls, we weren't planning on cutting holes in the walls. We weren't planning on pulling in new wires. But once we got the electrician in, see, it all started when we decided to do these recessed lights. And we're putting in LED lights up here because we like our houses to be as energy efficient as possible. So we'll throw the LEDs in here in order to keep electrical costs pretty low. It's not a huge expense to us. I mean, it's a substantial expense, but usually it pays out when we go to sell the property. So I kicked a hole in the wall the other day just to see what was back there. We weren't sure if the electrical fed in from the side or if it fed in from the attic here. Turns out that every electrical box in here, in this room, and this room, and this room, the kitchen, every single one of those was ran off of one circuit. And I'm not an electrician, but I knew that that wasn't right. And the electrician said the GFIs were doing nothing. They actually had a fake ground wire in there, which is wrong, and we could have probably patched it back up and shipped it, but that's not the way we like to do business. We want to make sure that it's safe and it's up to code. So we're adding circuits. So we're going to have a dedicated circuit for the refrigerator, and the refrigerator is going in over here. We're actually going to have our plumber. This week was a lot of bad news because we really thought the first week when we found out the windows were good, we were super excited. We found out that they had upgraded the electrical service. So we didn't think that our electrical work was going to be very expensive at all. But as it turns out, we got our 220 feeding up here because our goal is to get rid of this wall. So I've got a couple contractors out. We're looking at this. So we found out this week that this is a load-bearing wall. What led me to believe that it wasn't a load-bearing wall was because this was originally a flat-top house that's been converted to a pitched roof. And if you look up here, and I don't know if you'll actually be able to see in there, no, but the beams run this way. So my assumption on like a newer constructed house, this would be one free span because of the fact that it's a flat-top house. You would have one span, and only the exterior walls would be load-bearing on some of the newer construction houses. This one was built in 60... don't get me lying to you, I can't remember right off the top of my head. But this one was built in the 60s, and this is a load-bearing wall. So what we're going to have to do is there's going to be a beam here, and we are going to take down this wall. We decided on that today. We're going to take down this wall. So this wall's coming down, and we're going to have to put a beam in right here, and there's a couple ways to do it. So we're getting it quoted both ways because we want to make sure that it's done right. But there'll be a beam here and a beam over here, and then right here we'll either expose a beam and we'll either do an exposed wooden beam. The problem is that some of those beams have to be load treated. So they have to meet certain certifications. If that's the case, we can't do a rustic wood beam across there. And if we can't do rustic wood, we're just going to either hide the beam in the ceiling, which is a viable option, as what the contractors have told me, or we'll bring it down here and then drywall around it. And then we're going to have a nice eat-in bar here. So this wall is going to be a half wall. This wall has to stay because we can't really run a gas line or electrical through a cabinet. So there's going to have to be a half wall here at the very least. So all of that's bad news, and that adds about, between the electrical and between this wall costing as much as it's going to cost, that actually added about $5,000 to $7,000 to our flip budget. Now, it's important to build in those types of contingencies, but $5,000 to $7,000 is a lot more money than I anticipated because the yard cleanup was almost $5,000 as it is. And then the house needs entirely new appliances. So we're above budget by about $7,000 over budget, which is never something I want to hear, but it is what it is. It's not like we're kind of past the point of no return. In addition to that, something else that we did, this house, and you saw this in the first video, had a terrible smell. In fact, it still does. But in these bedrooms where we're putting carpet, they put an oil-based paint on the floor here, and that actually eliminates the odor and puts a barrier between the foundation, between the concrete floors where the dogs were peeing everywhere, and the rest of the house. So that puts a barrier there. We talked to our flooring guys, Farmington Flooring, and they're going to come in and do some dress up in the main part of the house. So they're going to put carpets in the bedrooms, and that's going to look really nice. And then in the floors, they actually have I forget what it is, but it's a particular type of material that works well with this adhesive. This adhesive cannot be disturbed. So we've got to cover up this adhesive and encapsulate it. So that will all be encapsulated, and with a synthetic material that they use to level up the floor a little bit, get rid of any imperfections, and then we're going to do a really nice vinyl floor in here. That's been picked out, so it's a luxury vinyl, so it's a waterproof flooring. So that'll go in the main living space. It'll go in that living space over there. It'll go in the kitchen, and it'll all flow very nicely through here. So it's going to look really nice. It's also going to go in the laundry room. Now, the laundry room, see, you can kind of see where some of the staining is. That's literally all dog pee. It's absolutely disgusting, and it smells terrible in here because of it. So, here it is. We're actually going to get these, we're going to clean this washer and dryer up. They are functioning, so we'll just include those with the house so that somebody moves in here, we'll have all the appliances ready to go, and they'll be good to go. The attic was another unfortunate event. So there was a lot of trash in here that we did not know was up here, and we saw that on the first week. Whew. I'm going to die on this ladder. So we saw that on the first week that this attic, let's see if the camera will adjust. We'll brighten that up in post-production. But it's completely empty now. This was completely full of trash. In addition to that being completely full of trash, what we realized is that some of the electrical wires were not run correctly. So the electrician, I don't know a whole lot about electrical. That's why I always hire a licensed electrician to do the work. So the electrician's in there fixing that up. So he's got this all in the wreck. The other thing is, we also have to upgrade some of the breakers. All of the breakers in this box evidently have to be upgraded. And they have to be upgraded because these are not arc flash appropriate. So evidently, and I don't know all the particulars, and I'm not going to pretend to know, but there's a particular type of breaker that you have to put in upgraded houses in the dwelling portion of the house because it could be a potential fire hazard. So we want to eliminate any potential fire hazards and make sure that this is a safe place for somebody to own, move in, and enjoy. We want to make sure that we're doing it right. So As far as the backyard goes, another unexpected expense is once they did the trash out on the lot, once they did the trash out, what we ran into is that there was so much trash embedded in the dirt that they literally had to haul off 3 inches of topsoil. And the reason they had to do that is that every time you put a shovel in the ground or started raking something up, there was just more trash underneath it. And what had happened is there was so much garbage in this backyard for such a long time that the trash just got embedded in the dirt. So when AMF did this, they actually had to come in with a skid steer. You can see the tracks all the way through here. They came in with a skid steer and loaded up 3 inches of top fill and hauled it off. They had to haul it off to the dump because it was such a mess. The garage, something that we're trying to consider, and this is something I may want your opinion on. This garage also had electrical, or at least it was told to me that it had electrical. I didn't investigate it very thoroughly because when we buy these houses, we're not doing a thorough inspection on these. We are buying them as is, where is. Oof, there's a lot of wasps in here. In fact, you can see that wasp nest right there. But we're buying them as is, where it is. So when we buy them like that, we're not typically inspecting them. I'll do a quick visual inspection, but that's outside of my expertise. The biggest thing is we look to buy them well enough where we can build contingencies into our budget so that if we have issues, we can address those issues as we go. What we found out is that although we have light fixtures in here, they actually had an extension cord. So dangerous, not up to fire code. They had an extension cord running from the shop to the house, to that outlet over there by the house. You can kind of see it if we zoom in on it. But that is not safe. So we had to eliminate that. So unfortunately, we don't have electrical in the garage, in the shop anymore, but we are getting it priced out. If that's a big selling point for you, put it in the comments below. We want to see if we would really get a good return on investment by putting electrical out in the shop. So that's kind of where we're at. The roofing is here, as you can see, and something I didn't really show you before. Walk back here. This is a huge lot. But the roof is in bad shape. So we've already had a contractor out. He's going to come out and he's going to be replacing the roof for us and fixing some of the trim and that sort of stuff. So we have a licensed contractor coming out to do the roof for us. We've already got materials sitting here. Oddly enough, these were stacked in the yard and ready to go when we bought the property. That's not enough to do the whole thing. And those, I talked to the sellers, those were just a few months old. So fortunately, we were able to save some money on materials by having those shingles there. So anyway, I appreciate you guys tuning in. I hope you guys are enjoying the content so far. We've got more cabinets on order. We may end up taking those out entirely also, but we're already way over budget, so hopefully we won't have to. Thanks for watching, y'all.